All right, so let's continue talk about design and the UI layout. All right, so linear layout, I spent a ton of time on that simply because it's most useful, most practical one, very powerful one. Based on my experience, you can do 95% of your layout just using linear layout and perfectly. Android gave you other options, it's constraint layout, they have table layout, all of others. I didn't find those ones that useful. At least for me, I haven't really found a need to use the other ones. So linear layout always works great for me. So that's why I want you also to focus on a lot on this. It can give you a lot of flexibility. But there are also certain things that linear layout doesn't work that conveniently. All right, so one example would be if you come back to this one here, all right, and then if I want, for example, so the message box, instead of the height, I'm going to change it back. All right, so instead of using the weight, I'm still going to do this. But for example, I want this button to staying at the bottom. That kind of layout. Well, this one still only take a little one row here, and then you really need to figure out how to do it. So, like because button right now is this big, and then how do you put this one to here? Now you might think about something called layout gravity, but I don't think you can actually do that. So if you do bottom, it doesn't work because the reason is this gravity is talking about the gravity inside this same row, and then you only have this space. That's why this bottom doesn't work. So you really need to come up with different way to solve this. For example, you can make this height really higher. I can do a match parent. All right, so then your button becomes too large. And then you might think, well, I can do margin, okay, things like that. So you can eventually get it to that point, but it's actually not very convenient. All right. So whenever you need to place your button to some special location in your screen, if it's not simply like a center or left and right, and whenever you got something more complex than that, the linear layout will have some limitation. Again, you can still do it, you just need a different way to do it. Now let me show you how you can solve this problem here. So one thing you can do is this. I'm going to come back to this. Well, I told you the message, I want this one to be that big, and then this one should still that high. Well, I can do something like I insert something in the middle to take that space. So for example, I can do this. I can add, normally I would like to use a text view, which is just a label, but I can do an empty text view. I don't show anything, but there is a space. And I can use the weight. I gave a weight of 1, and then I change this one to be 0 dp. So the text view actually takes the whole space, but there's nothing shown. So this button will be pushed to the bottom. That's how you can get this kind of effect. All right. Inserting this kind of a dummy view is one of the common used technique for the layout arrangement. All right. So keep this in mind. But as you can see, it's not that convenient. So whenever you have a situation like this, you might need to think about another kind of layout called relative layout. All right, so I'm going to show that next. So let me come back and to the previous example. All right, so that's what we have. All right, so let's talk about one more type of layout. I'm going to use activity main 3. This one I will just use relative layout. All right, click on OK. All right, so here's relative layout. Relative layout, it's a lot simpler. Basically, you always specify your position relative to another element, relative to another parent. Right? That's how you can do things. Let's come back to the slides. I have one example here. For example, you want to make something like this. All right, so another added box, but then here I have 2 other things in the same row and then a button at the bottom corner there. So you can still do this using the linear layout. So I'm not going to show that, but then you can also do that using relative layout. So for example, I'm going to start with add text, match parent, wrap content. I'm going to do this a little bit faster this time because you already know most of this. And I need a hint reminder name. All right. And then I need a drop down menu. I don't want to use that one, it's too complicated. I'm just going to use another text view. So this one is going to be like some date. So I'm going to wrap content, and then text. This one will be Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. All right. Well, as I'm putting this thing here, as you can see, there caused a problem. These two things are overlapped. The reason is this is relative layout. Relative layout doesn't know how to do this one after another in the same row or in the column. It only allows you to align the things relative to another one. In other words, if you want this one to be below the other one, you can say it. All right. So what you want to do is you can see here, if you type below, there's something called the layout below. All right, pretty straightforward. And if you do that, then you have to use ID to specify you want to below to which element. So I'm going to use ID. That means you need to add an ID for the first one. So this one will be the remainder added text. So this one here, ID will be remainder added text. So if you do that, this one becomes, below to the other one. So that's how the relative layout works. So if I want to add another one, I'm going to copy this. All right, so this time I need a time. So 8 a.m. Again, if you don't do it, if you simply say this one, it's going to be below that element. But then you can also say that this new time edit text should be to the right of this date edit text. All right, so you can specify it pretty easily. So I'm going to do right to the right of something. Again, using the ID. So you want to give an ID for this one. The ID of this edit text is date edit text. So to the right of this date edit text, if you specify that, so this one takes and go to the right. All right, pretty straightforward. All right, and then if you want to make it wider, I guess you can change the width to be, let's try match parent. Yeah, that's going to take the whole space. It's one way to do it. All right. And finally, let's add a button. Wrap content, and your text will be that. All right, so that's a button. One way you can do it is to make the button below this text here, edit text here. So I'm going to add ID. So this one is called time edit text. So this one will be below that time edit text. So if you do that, it goes to here. But then we need to align this one to the right. That's where it's really convenient to do using the relative layout, because you can see you can do something called parent. As you can see, it has a lot of options to align something based on your parent. Either go to top, bottom, and left and right start. All right, so if you want to do something like to the right, and then make it to be true, so that goes to the right. And if you want to be also align parent bottom to be true, and then that go to the bottom. But then the height, well, I guess the problem is probably because of this below thing. Let me see. If I change this one, yeah, because yeah, when you do the below, it said you have to below this one, so that's why it actually makes it wider. So I'm gonna get rid of that. So that automatically puts this one to the bottom. See, this is how you can do that using a relative layout just by saying parent bottom, parent right. You don't need to do anything else. Well, the linear layout, you have to figure out something else to make it happen. So relative layout, anyway, is really helpful for you to specify the position relative to your parent. That's one thing I find the most useful. Relatively to the other elements, it's actually not that useful because like this one, you can do it easily with the linear layout. All right, but then along this thing, relative with the parent, up, down, left and right, center vertical, center horizontal, very easy to do with relative layout. Okay, but I believe either this layout can, do the same thing. You just need a different way to figure, whatever you feel more comfortable. I'm very familiar with linear layout, so I often like to do linear layout. And then if you feel relative layout is more convenient, then do it. There is no right or wrong. Whatever you can do to make it scalable and compatible, that's fine. All right, so this is relative layout. I'm not going to talk too much. Relative layout is mostly about the things you can do here: align, parent, left, right, and below, above, things like those. All right, so that is relative layout. I'm not going to talk too much, but you probably have realized that in many cases you're not going to use only one layout. You will rely on multiple layouts to work together. All right. So back to this example. All right. So if I want to make this one, I can definitely use like a hybrid layout. So like this part here, I find it more easier to do with the linear layout. I can just add a linear layout just for this one. All right. So this is what I would do. So you got a reminder name, and after that, I'm going to add a linear layout, match parent, wrap content. Since this is a linear layout, you can contain other elements and children inside. So I'm going to move this to as part of the linear layout. All right. Now, first of all, I need to change this one to be vertical. Horizontal. So I change the orientation to horizontal. So this two will be aligned horizontally. And then I want to make sure this whole thing is below this edit text, so I can just move this layout below this one to here. All right, so this whole layout is below the previous one. So that means this one here, I don't need it. All right, and then since this is inside the linear layout, you don't have to use this right thing. So you can delete this. All right, it automatically still goes to after it because this is the linear layout. And then finally for the length, because this one will take more, this one take less. So I'm going to use weight. All right, so weight is always flexible. So this one I'm going to assign a weight of maybe 65%. This one I'm going to do a weight of 35%. All right. But now as you can see, it kind of mess up. All right, so there's something wrong with your weight. So I told you, if you do weight, this one go to 0 dp, that one go to 0 dp. That's how you can finalize this percent. 65%, 35%. All right, as you can see, linear layout is really good at to do this type of percent split, but relative layout is very hard to do this. So in my opinion, linear layout is actually more powerful than relative layout. Relative, I don't think you can do this type of things easier. All right, and then this button, if you feel this relative layout is easier, then you just apply relative layout and do it. All right, so using the hybrid UI specification is very common in Android. All right, so you don't have to stick to one as long as you can, figure out a way to make it happen, and also as long as you can get rid of some of the hard-coded values. That's the best way to design it. And more things for this design, I can add some margins the same, so I can start apply things to the whole parent. All right, so I can just add something here called margin left and right. Or I can do another way, which is also very common. If I simply apply a margin, that's going to apply a margin to all the 4 directions. I can see margin 10 dp. It automatically apply that to every direction if you want the same margin. Okay, so then your app will look a lot better. All right. Any questions? So very straightforward. Now, since you have seen enough about these examples, now when you come back to the previous point I mentioned about having a tree, it probably makes more sense. Because anything here, if you see this is my specification, everything is included and then contained inside this relative layout. That's the parent. And then it has one view, added text. It has another kind of container linear layout, and then another button. And then linear layout can contain other elements. So eventually it's actually a tree structure. Right? So every child could be a specific UI component, or it could be another layout, another container. So you can have this as many levels as you want. All right? Or if you look at this component tree view, this one shows this and the same idea. So everything is included in the relative layout. And then you have all of these ones here. All right. So that's the second type of layout we have. Some of the things I mentioned to you briefly. Number one, you do not want to really trust that UI editor. Okay. This is not really a big problem anymore. But then 2 years ago, that's really a big problem. When Android Studio just had that UI editor, the visual editor, it was still in the development. In many cases, you see something there, it might work, but then your phone, when you run in the phone, it's not the same way. Or your phone, the editor doesn't look perfect, but your phone looks fine. So always rely on the actual phone. But then recently, I think the visual editor is a lot better. If you can see perfectly on the video editor, I think normally your phone works. And also always use the video editor for you to test the scalability. So for example, switch this one from this picture phone to a better one, to a poor one, to even like a TV, and or maybe the watch. All right, like if you take a look at this one, even the watch, it looks great. All right. So this is called good design. A good design is it works in any platform without any issues. All right. All right. Another thing you should keep in mind is, as I mentioned, always use Google. All right. So for Android, anything related to Android, I can guarantee as you learn the first, most of the questions you will have are very, very, very common questions. Those questions have been answered hundreds of times. And then that means when you Google that answer, you can always find out the answer within the first one or two links. And most times it comes from Stack Overflow. If you look at the correct answer, and that gave you the code or explanation right away. All right. So there's nothing difficult about Android development. It's been there for many years, and there has been enough answers created to help you to learn and move on quickly. So that's why I highly recommend that if you have ideas to work on a project, let's start working on a project right away. You don't have to learn everything about Android first before making a project. You can just do and learn as you work on a project, because most of the questions, no matter how challenging they are, you should be able to find out answers quickly. All right, so that's the most efficient way to get help. All right. So next, I want to show you a couple of more concrete examples on how do we start a design. All right. So for example, I showed you some of this. I maybe use this one as an example. All right. Now, after today, I think you should start to design your UI, and you don't have to do something really professional. You can just draw your UI on a piece of paper, right, based on your idea and what you want to do. I remember Monica's idea about controlling your your the beer manufacturer, things like that. So you just need to draw this on piece of paper. That's the easiest way, to do. For example, obviously you want to monitor some of the numbers. There may be some text here to show the temperature, and then to show, I don't know, time and date. And then you may have the little kind of visualization in the middle, and then here you can say, well, I don't know, stop, or you click on it and change it back to the resume, something like that. I'm just making a UI. But you have to draw this one first. There are also some professional tools you can do if you want to draw a nice you know how to do that. But getting this one first, and then also you need to know all the screens. So for example, if I click on this, what happens? Well, it's going to give me a confirmation screen. In that screen, it will show me some kind of message or maybe warning. I need to confirm and for that operation. All right, so you will need to draw all of these screens and then to go from there. Let me give you an example on how the professional designers actually do their work. Let me see if I can log in and get this one here. No, it's not working anymore. Yeah, this is one good idea example. So in the professional world, normally we have UI designers. So the way they design the UI is they literally will just draw all the screens. All right. So this is the home screen, and then you go here, and then if you click on this button, it goes to here, and then click on this button, go to here, and all of this. All right. Of course, designer, they don't need to worry about how to program that. They can use Illustrator or Photoshop to do this really quickly. But then it's the developer job to implement it. But then this is normally the first step to design an app. You really want to think about what you want to accomplish, and then what's the best user workflow to accomplish that. The simple rule here is the less operation you can do, you need to do to accomplish some task, the better. Normally we count the number of clicks. If you can accomplish this task with only 2 clicks, let's use that one, not 3 times or 4 times. So the simpler the better. That's the number 1 rule for user experience design. Okay, so but normally you can actually follow the same idea. You don't have to draw that nicely. You can just draw things like this, and then have a good idea, and then work on each individual screen one by one. Now, once you have the design, all right, so we need to implement it. Now this is our job. So I just showed you how do you do the UI layout specification implementation. How do we get started? If something really, really simple, then you know how to do it. But sometimes it's getting pretty complicated. For example, this one here. You can't really see it clearly, but you can see there is a bottom navigation bar, 2 buttons here, more options here, little visualization, and then some title, and some other menu options. All right. So in fact, if you look at any of the popular apps like this one, all right, so there's a lot of stuff. If you look at this one, that's just a map. But then this one you have the read, and then the driver information, the view bar, and top title, things like that. How do we start a UI implementation? This one's probably a better example. It looks more complicated. Images, icons, and then text. Very simple. Since I told you about this linear layout or relative layout, now when you look at all of this visualization, in your mind, I want you to very quickly to map that into some kind of a layout. All right. Again, the widgets are all very simple. This is just the image. That's just the icon. This is just text. You can font it. The difficult part is always about the layout. But then the layout, most of the layout, as you can see, you can break it into either a horizontal linear layout or vertical one. Because think about the phone, most of the time we look at upside down, and then we scroll up and down. So the linear layout, the vertical one, that's probably the most commonly used workflow. That means most of your UI can be, applying this linear layout. All right, so you can always think through that one. The step is very simple. I want you to follow kind of a top-down design. So break that big screen into, 2 or 3 parts. And then you look at each individual parts and then see how to implement it. All right, so if you look at this one, the right-hand side. If you look at the whole screen, very straightforward. I might break it into 4 parts. First part here is the image. Second is this part here, show you some of the icons, the status. Third part is this one, the big title. You can click on this one for more details. And the last part is these 2 taxes for your reservation, arrival and departure. And then immediately I will know that I'm going to use the linear, layout, and vertical. 4 components. This one is very simple, just one image. This one is very complicated. There are actually more stuff. And now when you look at this one, which layout should I use? Just to specify the middle part. Let's see, there's the text, there's 3 images. Which layout should I use? Yes, linear layout horizontal, right? Because I can put them in the same row, and then this share half a space, this one is the other half a space. And then when I come to here, same. When I first take a look at this wall, 2 parts, and then looks at horizontal, right? So you go from the top level, break them down, and then if that part is still complicated, further break it down until you get to the point that you can manage. All right? So always follow that step. So I'm going to show you a more complicated example so that you know how this thing works. If you know this one, you can pretty much make any UI you want. All right? And I can say that most of the time you just need linear layout. It's just so powerful. All right, so the example, let's use this example. All right, how many of you are using it? Oh, don't be shy. I know you are all using it. So I don't know if this is the most updated version, but actually, if you are familiar with that, this screen probably is the most important screen, right? That's where you can find out all the, the interesting persons. And then also the key part about this app, the very special feature when they just got this one, it was actually the swipe. Right? Very simple. Think about how simple it is, to confirm your option. Right? So let's try to implement the left screen. All right. Now that screen actually looks pretty simple, but to implement the layout is actually not that simple. Using the approach I told you, how many components, how do we want to break down this? What's the topmost level? How many children we should have for that layout? Yes, for the first screen. We're only talking about now. Okay. 2? Yeah. Either 2 or 3. All right, so I will go with 3 because that top menu bar, that's 1. This whole area looks like they're together. All right, it's the second one, and then I have some buttons here and my third part. All right, so don't worry about how complicated it is. Let's just start from the top level, and then we work on each individual level to see how that works. All right, because then when you start to look at the individual one, it's not that difficult because if you just look at this one, that's very standard linear layout horizontal. 3 things. 1, 2, put that in the middle. And then if you start to look at this one, it's not really bad. There's just 1 image plus a bunch of other things horizontal. So we can work on that later. So first of all, you break down the big parts, and then immediately what you should do is assign a percent. Think about the app like this. It's always going to be like this much, right? and then the buttons needs to be use the percent to specify the space, the dimension. All right, let's try that. So coming back to my app, I'm going to create another layout. Activity Tinder app. And then always use the linear layout. Okay, that's the best one. Okay, I really don't like this constraint layout. I haven't figured out how to do it. So I'm going to create this one first, come back to my code. All right, looks like it's vertical. That's good. All right, so that's what I want. Vertical. First of all, 3 parts, 3 children. And I'm pretty sure each children is going to be another layout, right? Because every children you have multiple components, so you have to do another layout. I'm going to use a linear layout for now. So I'm going to create 3 children here. One linear layout, match parent, wrap content. That's for my title bar. So I can put a comment here just to be clear. Top bar. And then I need a second one, profile. And then I need the last one, which is choice. All right, 3 children here. And then when you look at the design right now, it's nothing in it because the height I use wrap content is nothing in it, so there's nothing. But you should know there are actually 3 components. Before moving on to the next, confirm the percent first because this screen has a very clear, percent for your linear layout arrangement. This one already takes majority of the space. This one second, and this one only takes the little place at the top. So if you look at this, I might give 60% for this, or maybe 65%. This one I only gave maybe 30%. This one gave 10%. All right, so let's try it with that. So the top bar, I'm going to give a weight of 10%. This one has more, 60%. And then this one has 30%. Top bar, profile, and buttons. Looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to go with that. And then don't forget that if you use weight, this one has to go 0 dp. 0 dp, otherwise you're going to have problems. 0 dp. All right, so you see 1, 2, 3 components. No matter how complicated the UI looks like, how fancy it is, you can always break it down at this very high level. And then let's just start work on each individual level. All right, let's start from the first one. So the first one has 2 little buttons, and then there's a logo. It could be image or it could be a text. Either is fine. All right, so let's just work on this one by one. So it looks like you need one right here, one at the center, one at the right. All right, so I'm gonna use buttons. There's one button. For now, I'm gonna use wrap content and match parent. And then because this is the linear layout, so I need to place them horizontal. So I need to first do the orientation, make it horizontal. And then I need another button. All right, so 2 buttons for the left and the right. And then I need a little thing in the center, which is the logo. Let's just use the image. We can try to use the image to see how it works. The image will be done using image view. All right, so right now I'm going to do wrap content. All right. So right now you can't really see the image because we don't have image. So let's download the image. Let's get one without too much space. All right. Let's do a transparent. see this one. All right, so this one is pretty like compact. All right, so I'm gonna save this image. All right, the way to import image pretty simple. Just copy this image back to your Android Studio, find out the drawable folder, and then just paste it here. I'm going to choose this one. I will talk more about those later, but I'm going to choose the default drawable folder here and choose a name. Once you got a name for the image view, you can specify something called source, the source of the image. And you want to do something called drawable because you put it into the drawable folder, and then the name is Tinder logo. If you do that, right, so that comes with the image view. So once you have this, as you can see, because this image view is the image is very big, it's going to take the whole space. All right. So that's why when you start to use this, it's still very important that you do not want to rely on the actual image of the size of the image because you never know how big the image is. You want to constrain that by using specific width or height. You either hard code that or the better way to use percent. Because in this case, you know that the logo should take most of the space. The button just needs a little square at the bottom, at each side. So I'm going to change the layout to also to use something called weight. All right. So for example, for the button, you only have 1%. Sorry, 10%. This button also same. For the weight, you got 10%. And for the rest, you're going to use 80%. Oh, sorry, I did the wrong thing. So this one should be the this should be the 0 dp. All right. The width should be the 0 dp. All right. You see it? 1%, 80%. Sorry, 10%, 80, and then another 10%. All right. And then for each of the icon, and then you also need each of the button. You also need a little image there. So you can either download that or you can use some of the predefined ones from Android. So there is something called background source. Background specifies the background for your button. So you can do, I think it's Android drawable. So there are some predefined icons. I'm going to just randomly pick 1 or 2. All right, just as a kind of placeholder. And now you see this space kind of is off. So this one has too much. Since we don't really need that much, right? So this one can be a little bit shorter. So I'm going to change this one into 7. All right, or maybe even go to 6. So this one takes not 60%. Okay, this is 6 out of 8. So that's 75%. Each of this takes 12%, right? So as long as you see the percentage right, and you should be good. And also this one, the logo is too big. How can I add some margins? Well, you just do margins. So you can add a margin, 5 dp. All right, so that's going to put margins, between your image and your container. So there's little margin. If you want more, let's change this one into 10 dp. Maybe it looks a little bit better. All right, so that's how you can implement the top bar here. Horizontal, very standard horizontal. But I can tell you this part, if you do it using the relative layout, is simpler because in relative layout you can easily say this one goes to the center, this one left and right. You don't have to do the weight. All right, so that's a place where the relative layout is a little bit better, but it doesn't matter. It's either way, it's pretty simple. All right, but I want to show more examples using the weight because the weight is much more powerful. All right, so let's move on to the second part. This looks at the most complicated part. All right. And obviously you have an image that takes most of the space. But then below that, you also have a little icon shows a name, age, and then number of friends maybe. I don't know all the others, but you don't know what to do. Well, just using the same approach. You have to break it down until you see something that's doable. So the most straightforward way is I'm going to further break this into two parts. One part for the image, one part for the layout. All right, let's do it. So for the second profile part, I will have an image view first, followed by another container. I'm still going to use linear layout. This one, I haven't specified the orientation. If I talk about this one, and obviously it's going to be vertical, so orientation, vertical. All right. Now, again, you can't see the two because you haven't put any content there. But before you put any content, you have to say percent. You have to fix that position. If you think the image, the size should always be that big, you have to fix that percentage right away. All right. So I'm gonna do. Looks like this image should be 80%, right? This one 20%. Let's try that. So weight of the image should be 80. Well, the other one should be 20. And then change the height into 0 dp. All right, let's see. This is the image. That's a little profile information here. But this one looks a little bit smaller. Maybe I give a little bit more, 25, 75. A little bit better. Or maybe you think this one is too much, right? So I'm going to reduce this one a little bit. Maybe this one I want to give 25. And then this one here got 65%. Okay, so that's, you can always go back and adjust this and then to see something nice. All right, so, but we are working on the second part. All right, so with that, then it's easy. We can just start to input an image. So we're not talking about how to load all the images, but here I just want to have a placeholder for you, right? So let's find an image. Well, I'm going to just use Addison, right? So, all right. Well, I'm not going to scroll down too much, just in case, you know. But let's just find out. Yeah, just yeah, maybe this one. Yeah, looks more like a student. So I'm gonna this one here, called Addison. All right, so copy this image to my Studio. Again, paste it to a drawable folder called Addison, and then the image view you can start to use that. So source, drawable, image, Addison. All right, so here how it works. As you can see, this image actually, if you look at that, is actually 567 by 567. It's pretty large. But then the reason this one doesn't mess up your view is because you have already specified this image for the height, you only have that 75% out of the 65% of your screen. So that height is already fixed. That's the maximum height. Then you just place your image there. That's it. All right. That's very important. Otherwise, if you don't do this percent, your image is going to whole mess up your layout. Okay, that weight is so powerful. Okay, without weight, your app is not going to work very well. That part is done. Let's work on the next one. So this one here has a name, text, pretty much just a text view. This one, little icon, text, icon, text, icon, text. So how should I do this part? What's the layout I should use first? High level. Horizontal. Again, right? Because this one and then right. So I'm going to use a horizontal. I'm talking about this one here. Orientation, horizontal. All right. And then we have pretty complicated stuff. So I'm going to work on that one by one. This is one text. It's easy. This one has an icon and text, so there are two elements. That means we need another container. But it's very straightforward. This one is going to be a linear layout. with vertical arrangement. All right, so linear layout, linear layout, linear layout, and all vertical, and this one is the text view. So I'm going to do this one. Text view, and then another linear layout. This one orientation should be vertical because the up part is a icon, the bottom part is the text. All right, so I'm going to do two more. So that's our design. Again, you can't see it because you don't have content, but we can assign a weight, another weight for this part. Okay, so that's easy because Allison, the name tag should take about over half. I will put 55%. All right, maybe I'll do 60 just in case we can divide them equally. So text view goes weight for 60%, and then so that your width here is 0 dp. Oh, this one I should do a match parent, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can come back to this one. And then the rest three will share the 40%, so each will get 20%. So this one weight 20%, change this into 0 dp. All right, so I'll do the same thing for this 0 dp, for this 0 dp. All right, so now you got it. This one. Where are my? Yeah, you can't see it because it's at the top. So let's change the height so that you can see it. I'm gonna do a match parent. And this way. All right, so let's take a look at this again. Text view for name, and then 1, 2, 3 area. All right, pretty clean and very organized. So let's start to put the content. So this one has a name, text, Allison 22. All right, so we need to put this one to the bottom. All right, so gravity, bottom. All right, goes up here. And then the text size, font size is not big, so I'm gonna do something called font size, text size. And you can change to 18, 20. But at the type here, as you can see, you have to give the unit. For text, we don't use DP. For text, we use SP. All right, there are so many options. I can't remember different, but SP is just like the DP you use for the margin for the layout. So that's kind of a scaled. All right, so I'm gonna do 20. Looks good. I can do a kind of a style to make it a bold. So do a text style, do a bold, and that's how you can make it a bold. Right? And of course, we need to add some kind of margin or padding, right? So I want this one, because this text is really not like attached to the screen. So I want to add some padding this time. Maybe padding left 10 dp. So your text goes a little bit to here. And I can do a padding bottom 10 dp. All right, so then that's how you can move the text over here. That's pretty much what we need for the design. All right, so we're good. Let's work on the other part. This one's really easy. Icon text. All right, so basically an image. And then the text. So the text is easy. It's 21. Oh, all right. And then the image, we need to provide a source again. And I'm still going to use the Android, just kind of a placeholder. IC, maybe email. Can't see it, so I'm going to change something else. Map. Let's find a better icon. Menu. All right, so this looks better. Just a little icon as a placeholder. All right, So now we need to work on to make it looks nice. All right. So first of all, text, I need to make the text size 20 dp sp, and then we need to center this to the center of the layout. So two ways you can do a gravity here, layout gravity, center. Oh, sorry, layout gravity. So same thing for image. All right, so that looks good. But then you're not realign the whole thing to the center. So I can do another thing, which is for the layout, for the container, I can do a gravity. If you remember, if I put the gravity center, it's going to centralize everything contained. So that gave me a perfect display. All right, so I'm going to copy this for the rest. One, two. All right. Let's change the number a little bit. This one is 5. This one is 13. All right. And now that looks like pretty much looks like in terms of layout. Of course, for all the icon stuff, you need to get professional icons with the right site from the designer. So you can also download those. All right, but once you have those, the same approach to align them. Finally, you got 3 little buttons. Well, it's a style button, but it's pretty much, you can consider them images. You can still use images for those. All right, so I can try to place 3 images. First of all, the orientation should be horizontal. All right, we use 3 of those. And then these 2 are bigger, this one is smaller. So let's, again, use the margin. Sorry, use the weight. So maybe each of this is going to take 30%, and this one take 15%. All right, so weight 30%, weight 15%, and then that one's another 30%. So the width will go with 0 dp, 0 dp, and 0 dp. All right, so 1, 2, 3 buttons. But we have actually quite a lot of margin at left and right. So you can give a margin, but then that's actually the better way is I'm going to use an empty view again to share, that space. For the weight, so I still have a 75, so I still have 25, 12% here, and 12% here. All right, so now when you look at this one, 1 button, 2 button, 3 button, there's space. The reason I like to use this one is because that margin actually seems pretty big. So I don't want to use a DP like 40 DP, 50 DP, and then it might not work very well in a lower end phone. Right, so that's just a practice. But if your margin only 5 or 10, 15, feel free to use that hard code, which is fine. All right, now let's just get some of those buttons. We need a like and dislike and information button. So we should be able to find those. Tinder like icon. All right, so this is not like, dislike. This one is like. There is another information. Yeah, just use one as a placeholder. Or maybe this one. It's not a rectangle. Yeah, just maybe use this one. All right, information. So let's copy all of this. See here. All right, so this image takes this light. This one takes information, and that one takes light. All right. Because right now the image I don't have a border, so you don't see it. So the reason you can see this style because that image they made it like that with a border and white and a gray color. If you have that in place here, it's going to show exactly the same. All right. So let's run it and see how it looks like on the phone. So change this one to the Tinder. Run it. All right. So I guess a few things to fix. This one is a little bit too up. This one is center, but then this two are not. So we can change that. And otherwise, I think it just looks pretty much like the design we have. This one. Maybe change it smaller a little bit. All right. Yeah, except the we don't have the professional asset. I think the layout everything looks pretty good. Something like the minor thing to adjust. Let's center this too. So the reason right now is because if you look at it here, the button you have weight, and then we have to layout, gravity, center. All right. Same thing for here. So that's going to center this. And then this part we need some margin. Okay, so the whole this whole second child here. Let's add a margin for top. Margin top, 10 dp. All right, and then margin left, 10 dp, and then margin right, 10 dp. I don't want that thing for the so that actually goes a little closer to the screen. And one more thing, if you want, for example, right now you can't see the layer because I just use a whole white. But you see in actual voice you have this background that's kind of gray. If you want to do a little bit further, we can show you. For example, that part is pretty simple. For the whole background here, I can do a gray color, so basically this one here, and I can say that something called the background, and then I can do a color, all right, or I can directly use a certain color. So let me see. So you can find out the HTML color code. Let's just do some kind of a gray color. This one. So I'm going to put that one here. Alright, so that's how you can change the background to be like this. Well, it's too much. Alright, so we need to get something lighter. Do this one. Alright, but then the top bar remains the white. Alright, so the top bar here, yeah, I can still do background, color code. Alright, so that one is still white, so that you can see the little layer. Alright, and yeah, so that's kind of the idea. This part, the image is not taking the whole space because the image is square, the space is rectangle. But there is a way to fix that pretty easily. So go find out that image. There is a property called a scale type. They're asking you if the image doesn't fit perfectly, how you scale it. You can just try, you'll figure out what that means. Center crop means that you will place the center by cropping the image as needed. All right, so that actually looks nice. So that's how you can fit the whole screen together. All right, there are other ways, like there are fit X and Y to try to stretch the photo. There are fit center. There are center crop. That's probably the one we need. Yeah, so that you don't lose that ratio, right? So let's run this again. All right, so, oh, actually I need to put this one here. Yeah, it's not the same ratio, but yeah, I would say pretty similar. Oh, actually, this text is not aligned really well. So this one should be the same level as the other text, I guess. Right. So let's see how to fix that one. And come back to here. This one is too high. The reason is because this one here we did the padding. That's how we added space. This one we just centered them. All right. So if you want this one to be perfect aligned, we can do this. Because right now, this one here, I'm using center, but if I put them to be bottom, yeah, it's gonna be here, right? So if we all put them to bottom, and then you can apply both, actually. Let me see. Right. And let me first do the bottom. All right, and then if we add the same amount of padding, so they will all go up to the same place. So that's one way you can align them easily. So remember this one, I did a padding bottom, and I can actually change that and put that into the parent so that everybody is doing the same. So I do it here, so everything goes up. So that's kind of allows you to align it nicely. Let's run this again. Yeah, this definitely looks a lot better. All right, so now the texts are all like the same. So as you can see, this looks quite different. All right. So that's how you can make a very this UI is very complicated. Rarely you don't need to do this complicated UI, but I just want to show you. Now when you go back to look at the design, it's really nothing complicated. Look at this level by level from the most high level and then break it down. Eventually you can always use linear layout to work. Vertical, horizontal, plus weight. Weight is going to be your best friend. Because weight is how you can guarantee this thing is scalable, compatible. Because it depends on the person, nothing hard-coded. So if we go here and try our design on different devices, I go to Better Phone, Pixel 2, works. I go to Poor Phone, really low resolution, still works nicely. And this one is the same. I go to Tablet, Nexus 10, right? Still works, even though I have to adjust this part here, but overall it's not too bad. I go to TV, no, still works. I go to watch, I don't know what's it gonna look like, but not bad, right? It's not bad at all. But well, for this one we definitely have to do, because some of the images are too big, so it's gonna just erase the other elements. Or maybe wrong. Yeah. Not bad. With some modification, we can even make it work for the watch. But for watch, you guess you have to use a different UI. You're not going to put so much content here. All right. What else do we have? They don't have an Android Auto, so that will be interesting to see. But yeah, these are tablets, these are phones. All right. So that's one example. And you can use the same approach to do anything. I don't want to do this again. This is very similar to the other one. You have one top bar, bottom bar, and then in the middle you have all the screens. But each like they call it card view, has rows one after another. Just control the percent. Once you fix the percent, everything else will become so easy, and it's not going to mess up everything, right? Because everybody will have the constraint that that's your space, and you just do whatever you want in that space. All right. Any questions? All right. So you really need to work on your UI from now on. Okay. First of all, design your screens, just like the one I showed you. Draw it and draw all the screens so that you have a big idea on how many steps you need. Is there anything you can optimize? And then for each individual screen, we haven't talked too much on coding, but at least you can actually use the XML file to start, implement most of this by putting some of the placeholders, images, and then later on you can improve that by switching to better images. All right. And then start to work on the UI. Okay, don't wait. That's right now the time. And then all of this actually takes a lot of practice. When you start to do it, you will find all different problems. Now, I can do this one so smoothly, I didn't have any bug. And I can quickly figure out a solution to do it. The reason is definitely not because I'm smart. The reason is because this is, I guess, it's the 5th time I'm running this demo. Okay, I don't even prepare this practice before the class. The first couple years when I was talking this, I have to make sure I run this right before the class. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. I know sometimes if I have something special, I even forgot how do I deal with that. So it seems to me not working that smoothly. But right now, you can challenge me with any kind of layout. I can pretty much handle that. Okay, it's just about the repetition. Something I already told you on day 1. So the whole coding thing has nothing to do with you're smart or not, with your, how many classes you attend. It's all about how much time you spend on coding, the repetition. Because when you start to work on a linear layout, pretty much I'm not talking anything new. Orientation, width and height, and then weight. You always use all of this, and then you have to do the gravity layout and layout gravity, and then margin and padding. That's all. And then when you start to use this 100 times, and all of this is got really simple. Let me prove that I've done that many times. Every time I'm going to check in the stuff to the repository, you can actually find out everything we did before. Okay, so if you go to that repository I send you, we have this one for this class. All right, so that's the first time I did in 2015. I always do live demos in the class. All right, I never show you a code. It's not going to work. You can't get how it works, and also looks very boring. I do complete this. The first year I did a 25 example in the class. All right, and then I repeat all the example in winter. I cut a lot of examples because there were too many. I just want to focus some of the more interesting ones. And then in spring 2017, I did another set of examples. The summer I did another one, and this is the 5th time I'm doing it. All right, and you can go back to the commit history. I code everything. But then the truth is, the more I do it, the faster I can go. The more comfortable I feel with. But unfortunately, I feel I'm always the one that learn most by doing all of these demos. So if you don't actually practice and do the exercises, and you can't get the same level as I do. All right. So the whole coding really is it could be really simple. That's why I told you the other day, when you work in the companies, it can be a lot of fun, but then after a couple of years, it's pretty tedious. Right? Like in Amazon. Amazon is actually very good, strong in the web services. Everything they build are for web. They have pretty good database system. They have very good web servers. They have all these best practices. They know everything. So once you start working Amazon, you will be really amazed by all this cool web service framework and tools, the things they have done to let you to build something very scalable, powerful, very quickly. You feel every day you're learning a lot of things. But unfortunately, after 1 year, you actually know most of this. And then second year, you're going to repeat all of this. Then third year, you got tired of repeating those things. All right. So, for that's kind of the nature of coding. For one type of work, it's always going to be the same kind of things again and again. All right. However, as you do this, like every time, actually, I slightly change some of the stuff based on the things I learned every time, based on my understanding. That's just how you improve. All right. So very practical subject. Just go back to code it. And if you don't come to class, I really don't mind, because for this type of class, it doesn't matter how much you listen to me. What really matters is how much code you write. All right. So create a repository for your project. Go back and then take a look at eventually the contributions you made. Where shows that one? Yeah, here, right here. Like all the repository, for example, you finish one, if you go to the contributor, it shows you like the number of lines of code you check in. All right, so that shows your efforts. Okay, so if you only have 500 lines of code, you're not really doing a lot. So that's also very easy for me to look at how the team work together, how everyone making their contribution. Pretty straightforward. You just look at your community history. You can't really rely on that one. All right, so but I'm not going to pick on how many lines of code you write, but you should start to work on your code and then do some exercises. All right. So that's about the layout. And then again, there are actually a lot of new layout coming out. I didn't have time to look at those. Even the older one, there's a grid layout, there's a table layout. They're all pretty. They're only useful in certain situations. Like grid layout, if you want to show, for example, all the images on the screen in a grid, 5 rows, 3 columns. That's the best layout to do it. All right. Other than that, most of the time the linear layout gives you the very generic way to specify things. All right. All right. So coming up, let's talk another 15 or 10 minutes. I know you all get bored and hungry. So, but I don't want early cut too much. But let's work on a little bit more on the UI. All right, so the next topic we're going to dive into the individual widget and then talk about how we're going to use those. This part is really simple. I just want to point out some of the most commonly used widget and then see how that works. All right, of course, this one is more about programming, the method you will call. All right, so I categorize most of this, and the first category is the I call it basic components. Like some of the things we already showed you, the text view, edit text button, image button, switch, seek bar, checkbox, image view. So these are things you can do. All right, so let's show those. All right, so let's create, maybe I'll put a new project. All right, so I'm gonna close this one. Start a new one. I'll call it lesson 3 and basic UI widgets. All right, and for this one, let's start. I'm just going to play around with all the different widgets. All right, so I'm going to go and create a layout. I will replace this one with a linear layout since that's really my favorite one. And then, yeah, so let's start from empty. So I will create a text view. Text view is your label. All right, so anytime you want to show a static information, you want to think about text view. Wrap content, and then text view, the content is inputted through text. So I go at text, and you can go anything. CS499, mobile application development. Right. And for the text view, you can do a wrap content. You can do a height. Sometimes you want to center this. Either way, you can do like I can match parent, make this like whole screen. But then I can do a gravity center, That's how you can center it. Okay, so this is just experience. Once you do more, you will know all of this. Size, I told you, text size, 18, use SP. That's the standard for text size. You can do style, bold, and you can do multiple by using this, italic. All right, so you can do all of this. And white, they gave me a red. I cannot resolve it. Is that because of the space? Yeah. All right. And then what else? There's the text color. All right. So you can go with a random color. All right, just random color. And what other things you normally use? I think that's it. And then for the font, you can change the font family. But then this one, I think you either use the ones they provided here, or you have to install the font. You need to take something extra to install a new font. All right, so it's not as straightforward as you saw. But in general, I wouldn't recommend you change the font directly, because most of the Android actually using this font. I don't know what it is, but normally they use that one. So if there's no specific you need to change the font, then don't do it. Font, you need to treat it very seriously. A lot of the time I see students want to use some very fancy, like very artist style, very art type of font. Don't do that. You want something very nice and clean. There are only like 4 or 5 very typical and common font people have been using. You can take a look at Airbnb or Uber, the font they use. You can do the same thing. All right. So that's a text view. And then of course you can program this one as well. So I'm going to do an ID. So this is the text view. All right. So to control this through program, I already talked about that before. So go back to your main activity. First of all, let's find out that component. Text view, create a variable or object, font view by ID, r.id dot text view. All right, and then with that, you can do a lot of things. You can say text view, set text. That's the most common one. How you can change the text. So I'm going to change 1C as 499 as started. All right. So previously I put this text here, but when the program runs, once they execute this onCreate method, I'm going to basically change this one into a new text. All right. So let's just show it. All right. So you can see that's the updated text because the code actually changed it. So anything you can change in the visual editor or in the resource editor, you can change the through program. You just need to find out that method. If you don't know how to do it, Google it. All right. So Android, change text view style programming language. All right. So always go to the first one. Don't even look at this one. It's going to tell you right away. All right. That's how you can change it. Anything with Android related to this type of question, just Google it. You can find a ton of answers. All right. So text view, you can set color, text size, all this you can do it here. All right. So but then for text view, most of the time you do this one. All right. Most of the time you change the actual text because in many cases you have to load something, and then you display it in your text view. That's when you need this method. That's the most useful method for text view. All right. Edit text. All right. Edit text is basically the one we showed you a lot. So let's come back here. Let's edit text. All right. And oh, I didn't add the orientation. Let's give an ID. Edit text. Hint. I already showed you. That's the just a text to show in the beginning. That's a message. All right. So let's add a little bit of margin to the top. MVP. All right. So if you start to run this, all right, you got this text, edit text. You can type stuff. For this emulator, you can't see the keyboard, but in the phone, the keyboard will be triggered. All right. Now, a few things about edit text. One interesting is you can do a input type. Input type. Date, time, number, password, everything. If you do a password and number password, first of all, it's going to hide the things you type. And then secondly, you can only do number. You can't do the character. If I do the character, it's not going to show up. When you have a keyboard, that's going to switch to a number keyboard, so it's easier for you to type. But if you do the number, you're going to see this kind of password thing, so you don't see the actual content. So very easy, just change the type into number password or something else like email. If you do an email, text email, and then your keyboard will be modified to show that little @ sign there so that you can type the email pretty easily. All right, so that's very useful for the input type. Other things we often use is padding, especially for the padding left, because in many cases you don't want like this one to be so close. All right, so in many cases we want to have some kind of padding to the beginning, like a little bit, 5 dB or maybe 10 dB, so that you don't start to type this right in the beginning. All right. So these are most of the things. And then if you want to basically, once you type something, you get the content, that's pretty easy. So I go back to my code. Let me use the program. Edit text, font view by ID, r.id.edit text. Get text, that's going to give you the actual text content. But be careful, when you do the get text, as you can see, the return type is something called editable. That's not a regular string. And most times it doesn't cause a problem, but the best way is always to put it to the string. So if I'm going to use the log method to see what I type, you can't see it here because when you run it, it hasn't started. So I can add a button. All right, so I'm going to put a button here. Test button. Give an ID. Test button. All right. So if I click on this test button, this is something we did before. r.id text button. Set on quick listener, new, control space, and then I'm going to log and display whatever you type in the edit text. Get text to string. All right, so let me run this one here. If you want to see the log information, you have to open the logcat. All right, so I'm going to start to type something. Once I click on test, that shows up right here. All right, so it grabs whatever you type here, and you can then send it and process to use the text. So basically, I'm just trying to show get text method. That's the one you will need for the edit text. All right. Of course, you can also display this in here. All right, so I'm going to change this one. So I'm going to say that for the text view. Oh, actually, let me ask you this. So I was going to change the code from here, and I want to call it here inside. So basically, once you click on the button, I don't want to just show it in a log. I want to just show it in the text view. So I'm going to do a text view, set text to be the edited text, get text dot toString. It's complaining. Can anyone tell me why? This line here, why there is a red complaining? I'm trying to use the text view, which is right here. Yes. Private. Well, if you put it here, I can use it private, but here, how can I do private? Well, yeah, that works, but then what's the problem here? If I want to make it work here, what should I do? So when you put it here, this is the local variable. All right. If it's a local variable, then you can use it anywhere in this function, including this one. However, you should know this is a special block. This block will not be triggered unless you trigger the event, which is on click. So if that's the case, then I want to make sure that whatever you're trying to use here had to be confirmed and fixed. So this variable, you cannot actually easily change it. So first of all, the solution is to make this as final. All right. You make this final, that means this one will not be changed. And now it's very safe to pass it right here, because when the program runs, once you compile, Java need to know what is this thing here. Well, when I look at the reference, it's actually this object. But Java doesn't want you to change it again, because at that time, this code already being recorded. And then later on, when you start to click on the button, it's going to run this one. But at that time, if you change it somehow, it's going to cause problems for Java compiler, for the runtime engine. So that's just something, you don't have to ask why. It's just something Java requires, that because that way they will know all the local variables, the value, everything is safer to pass it to the inside. All right, so you can read more on why this has to be final, but two solutions: either make it final, or like what Joey mentioned, I can put this one to be class instance variable. That also works. Because if this is a class instance variable, then you can really access it anywhere and change it. It doesn't matter. So Java is not picky on that one. All right. So if we do this and run it, I type this one, click on text, that changes the text here. I do one more, click on text, that changes it. All right. So pretty straightforward. So I'm going to stop here, because next time we're going to finish most of this widget. Most of the time, I just want to point out this commonly used message for a widget, and then show you some examples. All right. But then don't wait on me. Okay. You should actually start making your apps, and right now. Okay. Try to Google and do the research for the things you need.